The second generation Amazon Echo Buds can be found for roughly £110 in the UK and around $120 in the US. In this review, you can see if it's actually worth its price tag and furthermore how it stacks up to its rivals. So to kick off this review, I do want to quickly touch upon connectivity. Now these earphones support the SBC and AAC codecs only. It's a shame not to see aptX, aptX-HD or LDAC codecs supported. The latter is actually in some of its rivals and it would have been nice to see it present in the Amazon Echo Buds second generation. Nevertheless, when it comes to lip sync delays or video lag, I had no problems whatsoever when I was connected over to my Android Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. Here it was running the AAC codecs and I had no problems when I was browsing YouTube or indeed listening to my music. Elsewhere, the earphones themselves have got good connectivity between left and right earbuds and I had no problems when it came to overall Bluetooth distance. In other words, the range from me leaving my phone in a certain room and then walking around the apartment. Now I should also point out that both the left and right drivers operate on a master configuration, which means that you can use either of them in a mono format. Quite handy if you want to only have one earbud in at a certain point. The only thing I'd like to point out, however, is that there's a little bit of a delay when you're taking them in or out of the case and therefore isn't as seamless as what some of its competitors, such as for example the Jabra or the One More earphones offer, whereby they offer a seamless connectivity as soon as you take them out of the case. Now another thing that I'm not too fond of is the fact that each time you take a single earbud out of your ears, it's going to pause your music. Now don't get me wrong, some people are going to absolutely love this feature because it makes it for a little bit more of a seamless use when you're out and about, but for those of us who are like me, then you'll find that it's a little bit cumbersome. And no, before you ask, there's no means of actually disabling this feature, at least not at the time of the review, through the Alexa app. Speaking of which, I'll get onto the app whereby I share my own equalizer presets further down in this review. But let's talk about sound quality. Now here the earphones have got a decent low-end extension. It's not as pronounced and give you that sort of low-end rumble that you'd expect in comparison to some alternatives from Jabra, Anker or indeed One More, but nevertheless I think it will suffice for a lot of consumers. Similarly, in terms of its mid-bass slam, it's pretty hearty but then also quite controlled. It doesn't feel wobbly in the slightest. The problem, however, is the mid-range. The lower mids are a little bit pushed back and therefore means that vocals don't come out as accurately as you might expect. Now you might want to EQ this through the app, however doing so might also reduce the overall accuracy. So much so that I couldn't add too many notches to my mid-range EQ because therefore it took away from the overall male or indeed female vocals. Now on the plus side, the upper mids are pretty good and therefore female vocals do come out a little bit better. So therefore if you're listening to a lot of female vocals, I think the Amazon Echo Buds 2nd Gen will actually do a decent job. Moving on to the highs, they do extend at the top end, although are a little bit rolled off and as a result won't give you that same sort of zingy nature as some of its competitors. Nevertheless, I think yet again it will suffice for a lot of consumers. It's just that when you're comparing them with a lot of different earbuds, you'll quickly realize that some of its rivals just do a little bit of a better job. Thankfully, there is no sort of sibilance or harshness and therefore means that you can also listen to these earphones for a prolonged amount of time without any sort of ear fatigue. So what about when it comes to its soundstage reproduction? Well, here I must say I was pleasantly surprised. The overall width and depth is good and the overall instrument separation is pretty impressive. If you're going to be listening back to classical music, I think you'll appreciate the sort of airiness that you can get with the 2nd Gen Echo Buds, and here they certainly stand out in comparison to the likes of the Jabra Elite 75Ts. However, in comparison to the creative Outlier Air V1, V2, V3, or even some of the more expensive alternatives out there on the market, they can't quite compete with these earphones that have a slightly larger housing. Ultimately, what I'm trying to portray over here is that the overall sound quality, including the soundstage, is pretty good, and therefore a lot of consumers will be left impressed. So what about when it comes to recording? Well, everything you can hear right now is coming directly from the earbuds, and what I will say, having done the test myself, is that the overall recording quality is pretty impressive. Now what I'm going to do is do a control test. I'm going to be playing back my friend's song. It's from Priya J. It's been coming from my bookshelf speakers and I'm going to be continuing to speak while the music is playing. And the reason behind this, it gives you sort of a simulation as to how it will be in a noisy environment. So now I'm going to go quiet. So hopefully there it gives you a little indication of how it performs, and now we're going to switch to some of its rivals. And so here's one of them, it's the Jabra Elite 75T, and I must say here the overall sound is a little bit different. The Jabras have a little bit more of a pronounced bass tone. Now again, I'm going to do the same control test, playing my friend's track through my bookshelf speakers, the volume hasn't changed, and I'm continuing to speak at pretty much the same volume. So now I go quiet. So hopefully there again you'll be able to see how the overall competencies of the Amazon Echo Buds do, specifically when compared to some of the reference earbuds when it comes to call quality, and that is in form of the Jabra Elite 75Ts. And as for the other competitor is the Creative Outlier Air V3, which are among the best budget earbuds out there on the market. And yet again here you'll be able to hear potentially the differences in terms of the call quality between the three earbuds. So yet again, play some music while continuing to speak with the bookshelf speakers placed in front of me with the volume that hasn't changed. I'm going to go quiet. So hopefully yet again there you'll be able to see the differences between the three earbuds, and you'll agree with me to say that the Amazon Echo Buds actually do a really good job. Now with recording out of the way, what about when it comes to active noise cancellation? Well, while I was saying my control test, I was left a little bit disheartened, whereby they're just below the Jabra Elite 75T when it comes to ANC performance. And note, the 75T aren't exactly great when it comes to active noise cancellation either. Here, the likes of the Libratone Air Plus or earphones offered from One More with active noise cancellation do a far better job, and are the earbuds I would pick, at least if ANC was my utmost priority. But there is one key thing about the ANC on the Echo Buds, is the fact that if you're faced with a lot of wind, so for example if you're cycling or let's say going on a jog where it's going to be a bit windy, you'll find that the active noise cancellation feature actually does a good job of cancelling out wind noise in comparison to when it's fully disabled. And I did play around with this when I was on a cycle, and also when I was walking around in a windy road on the UK, and I did find that the active noise cancellation did have a positive impact. So it's great to see that Amazon have included ANC for that feature alone, but of course isn't a thing that I would just go out and buy purely because of ANC. Hopefully that makes sense, but if you've got any questions, ask me down in the comment section below. Now, while ANC isn't its forte, what is its key selling point is the built-in Amazon Alexa, and here I must say it actually works stupendously well. I had no problems whatsoever while using the wake word, and furthermore you can use Alexa to control certain earbud functions. So for example, you can ask it to enable or disable active noise cancellation. However, I did find a few limitations with the voice commands, and here when I was asking it to play and pause my locally stored music that was currently being played back via PowerAmp, a music player on Android, it would think I was asking it about the streaming services, more specifically Amazon Music. So here's the Amazon Alexa app, whereby you'll have to use it to set up the earbuds. Now through this main interface you can go through pass-through or ANC, and you can disable the microphone. Note, if you were to disable the microphone, it also means that it will affect it when it comes to taking calls. Now if you press the little cog icon over here, you'll be able to find a few different settings. For example, you'll be able to see the battery status of the left and right earbuds, and indeed the case when the earbuds are inside, and you can enable or disable power save. Power save effectively disables ANC, so it's maybe something that you might want to consider if active noise cancellation is important. If you tap on this, you've got the ability to go between active noise cancellation, pass-through, or you can disable ANC and pass-through altogether. Now the enable Alexa hands-free is arguably one of its key selling points. You might want to enable this and of course personalize it through the Alexa app, whereby it will pick up your voice over other voices out there, but if you're not going to be using it, then of course you might want to disable it. Side tones are useful if you want to hear yourself when you're on a call, and as for the tap controls, you can customize them through the app. It's nice to see that you've got single, double, triple tap and long hold functions. Each of them provide a different array of customization. So for example, the single tap is limited to play and pause, but that is quite handy. In my case, I've fully disabled them in order to prevent from accidental touches, and as a result meant that in terms of double tap, I've got a few more options that are presented to me, whereby I'm using them for media controls. Triple tap, likewise as the double tap functions, but as you can see over here, you've got a few more extra options. So for example, the ones of mic mute, or indeed having the voice assistant. And as for the long hold, likewise I've disabled it, but then then you've got a few other options as well to choose from. It's great to see the amount of customization through the app, but better still, I will say that the overall touch functionality works really well. I had no problems when it came to registering input, and as a result meant that using them on the go was pretty handy. The only complaint I have, however, is that each time you touch it, there's a slight little delay, and therefore you can hear a tone playing until the action is performed. Now, moving back through the app, you do have an equalizer function, which I did talk about before, and indeed here you can see I've added one notch to the mid and treble EQ and left the bass untouched. Of course, this is very subjective, so it will depend on your own music taste and or your own hearing, so of course feel free to play around with this to your heart's content. Just worth bearing in mind what I said before about the mid-range. If you do add too much to it, it will take away from the overall accuracy. Now, what I'm really not a fan of is the ear tip sizing test. It just didn't seem to work for me. I just felt that the left earbud was always coming up as poor, no matter how I was wearing the earphones. And this is coming from someone who's reviewed over 500 audio related devices, a vast majority of its competitors, and also a lot of IEMs or CIEMs. The reason I'm pointing this out is because it shouldn't be something that you should be really relying on. You just see how it feels in terms of your own hearing and indeed in terms of the sound that you're getting. I feel that this might be a throw off for certain inexperienced consumers, and I feel that Amazon should really refine its test and or just remove it altogether. Now, as for the workout, you can look at the history and also create your own workout profile, which is quite handy, and also you can locate the earbuds. If you were to lose either left or right earbud, it'll play back a little tone, and you can even see in terms of map whereby it was last used. So past the app, I should also mention that these earbuds have got up to 5 hours of battery life. At least that is when you have ANC enabled with the Amazon Alexa wake word. If you were to disable both of these, you'll get up to 6.5 hours on a single charge. As for the charging case, it provides up to 15 hours of extra playback and 19.5 hours if you were to disable ANC and Alexa. As for the quick charge function, you will get up to 2 hours of playback with just a 15-minute charge, which can be quite handy if you have to pop out of the house and you have forgotten to charge your earbuds. Now, I should also point out that there is a version that has wireless charging capabilities, although this does come in at a little bit of a premium. Now, elsewhere, I should point out that the earbuds have got an IPX4 rating, which gives them water resistance, although don't go submerging them because they don't have a fully waterproof design. As for the comfort of them, I had no problems whatsoever. They do stick out a slight bit, but are slightly smaller in terms of profile in comparison to some of its competitors, namely from the likes of Creative. Now here I should also point out that Amazon do provide you 4 size of ear tips and 2 size of wingtips. The wingtips are quite handy if you do go on workouts, because the silicone insert gives you a little bit of extra friction and therefore means that it will stick into your ears if you're going on a light jog. But of course, if you're going to be really seriously working out and moving your head vigorously, then you might want to look at over-the-ear solutions instead, and ones from the likes of Shure, for example, that you can find down in the description below, will be my top pick for you. And so this brings me on to my verdict of the second generation Echo Buds. And on the whole, I think Amazon have done a pretty good job. The earbuds offer good recording quality, have got a nice sort of build and design, the app provides a good layer of customization, and the sound quality is pretty good too. The biggest selling point, however, is the built-in integration of Alexa, and this really makes it stand out in comparison to its rest of its competitors. And fundamentally, if that's what you're really after, then the Echo Buds are the only solution, or indeed the option that you should really be considering. However, if it's not fundamental to you and the sole reason that you're buying these earbuds, then you might want to consider some others. So for example, the likes of the Jabra, Anker, One More, or Creative alternatives all offer a compelling package, and in some cases even come in at a cheaper price. Now, my suggestions will be down in the description below for your consideration, and of course do let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you've liked this independent detailed review and want to see more from myself and the channel, definitely do consider dropping a like, subscribing and hitting that bell notification, all of which would be greatly appreciated. As such, I've been Totally Dubbed, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves and goodbye.